Francisco Sanchez, a 45-year-old man from Mexico who's in the U.S. illegally, is accused of killing Catherine Steinle while she was out for a walk last Wednesday. San Francisco is one of dozens of cities that calls itself a sanctuary, meaning it doesn't fully cooperate with federal immigration authorities. However, the city's sheriff says federal officials should have realized that Sanchez had been deported 5 times.
The killing of Catherine Steinle at the hands of an often deported Mexican criminal, as you just heard, has reignited fierce criticism of the Democrats' deportation policies, and that is a great place now for us to bring in our roundtable.
Yeah, please welcome to the roundtable former Deputy Staff Secretary President Bill Clinton, Attorney David Goodfriend, rejoining Gabby's here with another segment. She's a reporter for the Washington Examiner. Thanks for joining us, guys. And we want to get right into it. And first and foremost, House Judiciary Committee Chair Bob Goodlatte slammed the Obama administration over the death of Catherine Steinle, telling the Times this administration is not enforcing our immigration laws. This product is a product of that lack of caring about the rule of law. Gabby, I mean, you hate to make political points based on a tragedy, but does the Obama administration policies, can we point to them as causing some of the violence in our communities?
Absolutely. President Obama has come out and issued a number of immigration executive actions and policies that he claims are intended to keep families together. But all that they're doing is keeping felons in our country. Felons like the one in San Francisco who tragically murdered this young woman. And these sanctuary cities, all of the policies like DACA, everything that's coming out of this administration so far has proved to have very little positive impact on our economy, on our security, and just on American society in general.
Well, David, don't we have to look at sanctuary cities at some point, what San Francisco is doing? I mean, this guy obviously escaped the judicial system.
Yeah, I think going back to your first question, there is clearly demagoguery going on here. There are people like Donald Trump who are using this horrible tragedy to their political advantage, and it's disgusting. The same way it was disgusting to have people say that if you find one person abusing welfare, that must mean that we have to end all welfare. That's just ridiculous. You have a criminal who has evaded police protection over and over again, who should be in jail. And the fact of the matter is, the proposed immigration reform that Marco Rubio originally supported before he was against it, that Jeb Bush supported before he was against it, includes better law enforcement cooperation and dealing with lawbreakers at the border. Of course, that's not something we hear from Donald Trump, is it? Instead, he's using this as an opportunity to further evangelize his racist views, and it's hurting the debate rather than helping it.
And Gabby, some would argue also that this is San Francisco's laws. I mean, they don't abide by cities that have these sanctuary laws are not abiding by federal law. So how can Obama be to blame? That's what some critics would argue. Your response?
Well, if I can just touch on something that David just mentioned about this person needing to be in jail. If anything, this person should have been deported long ago and kept from re-entering our country. And that's due to our broken immigration system, and it's due to a process called prosecutorial discretion that the Obama administration has endorsed, which allows the Immigration and Customs Enforcement and DHS to keep immigrants like these around in order to keep their families together and to appeal to, the emotion that lies there. So David, it is the Obama administration's fault. It is also the Democratic policies in San Francisco's fault.
David, I want to ask you though, I mean, most people would think if you're in this country illegally, and there were some reports out there would say you're less likely to commit a crime because you don't want to be deported.
Well, there's obviously the serial lawbreaker, like what we have in this one instance in San Francisco. Let's set that aside. Very often you have people who are pulled over for a traffic violation who are then deported because they don't have the proper documentation. You can legitimately ask, does the punishment fit the crime in that situation? Do we want to separate families, or would we rather bring people into the economy, have them buy houses, buy cars, pay taxes, and have a pathway to citizenship that would really help our economy? Every economic study I've ever seen, including conservative ones, shows that when you bring people into the workforce who are otherwise operating under the table on a cash-only basis, let's say, wages go up, tax revenues go up, expenditures go up, it's better for the economy. And that's really what we ought to be talking about here. We shouldn't be using one example of a clear lawbreaker who's actually been deported over and over again, who's escaped law enforcement multiple times. That's not the issue to be discussing. The issue is, how do we improve our economy? And look, if anything, we now know that deporting 11 to 12 million people is fantasy. So let's stop talking about that. Let's talk about real solutions that will actually move the economy and the country forward and would be humane towards children and families.
Okay, we are running out of time, and so I don't want to prompt you guys with another question and then have to go into commercial break. But we want to hear what White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest had to say about border security. We're going to talk about that coming after the commercial break. We'll continue this issue and talk about some of the other headlines around the country.
Also want to give you more information, too, on that breaking news story on Wall Street. We're continuing to follow that. The technical glitch right now that had stopped trading at one point. We'll give you more information on that. We'll delve into some more politics. The left and the right on immigration. Hillary Clinton last night on CNN. What did she have to say? And the person she's most disappointed in. It's straight ahead. Welcome back to Newsmax now. The old technical glitch hitting Wall Street right now. Officials on Wall Street say they are trying to work out the problem. Trading has been suspended as of 11:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a story that we're going to continue to follow. But right now, let's get back to part two of the roundtable. Joining us, former Deputy Staff Secretary of President Bill Clinton, attorney David Goodfriend.
And Gabby Morrongiello, political reporter for the Washington Examiner. Thanks so much for staying with us. Okay, so earlier we were talking about Francisco Sanchez, a 45-year-old man from Mexico who's accused of killing Catherine Steinle from San Francisco. We were talking about the sanctuary law that's in effect in San Francisco. And I want to bring in what Josh Earnest said about border security. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest says Republicans is actually blaming Republicans for poor border security. Here's what he had to say.
The fact is the president has done everything within his power to make sure that we're focusing our law enforcement resources on criminals and those who pose a threat to public safety. And it's because of the political efforts of Republicans that we have not been able to make the kind of investment that we would like to make in securing our border and keeping our community safe.
So, Gabby, earlier we heard you blaming the Obama administration. Now you're hearing Josh Earnest blame Republicans. What's your response?
Oh, this is just classic Josh Earnest and classic rhetoric out of the Obama administration. It is the fault of the GOP and across the board. I mean, they never offer solutions. He's out here, he's saying that the GOP is somehow preventing President Obama from enhancing border security. I don't see how that's possible. President Obama is the chief commander of the United States. He has every authority to funnel more money into border security and to take a look at the laws that are not being respected right now and revise them. And yet he continues to issue executive actions that have done nothing but create a worse scenario for immigration in this country.
David, let me jump in real quick because I really want to get to the Hillary Clinton interview last night, and this kind of stays along the same issue. She commented on Donald Trump's recent statements on Mexican immigrants. Let's take a look at that.
I'm very disappointed in those comments, and I feel very bad and very disappointed with him and with the Republican Party for not responding immediately and saying enough, stop it.
But what about Jeb Bush's approach to that? It's different, certainly, than Donald Trump's.
Well, he doesn't believe in a path to citizenship. If he did at one time, he no longer does. And so, pretty much, they're, as I said, they're on a spectrum of hostility.
It's fascinating. Talking to people on the right, they say the Donald Trump issue, what he had to say, a winning issue for the Republicans. David, I'm curious, as a consultant on the left, what would you say? Is Hillary Clinton approaching this right when she sort of, paints with a wide brush the entire Republican Party as far as what Donald Trump is saying?
She's being perfectly accurate, and it's a huge political problem for the Republicans if they ever want to win a general presidential election. I mean, the fact of the matter is George W. Bush won close to 40% of the Latino vote in his first race for the president. And that dropped to 11% in his second race for the presidency, and it's stayed at rock bottom for Republicans ever since. Why? Well, clearly, Latinos, as a general rule, are family-oriented, faith-oriented, work-oriented, great people that way. They are natural fit for a Republican candidate. And why don't they go there? Because exactly what we see from Donald Trump and Jeb Bush and the rest of the Republicans. The Republican field right now has made a calculation. They believe that being hostile, openly hostile to Mexican Americans, to Mexicans, to immigrants is going to help candidate to win the Republican primary. That's a calculation that's been made. Well, I would argue you might win the battle, but you'll lose the war. Because the minute that turns into a general election campaign and you have to win states like Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Florida, those words will come back to bite the Republican nominee just as sure as I'm sitting here. And I'm looking forward to watching them hoist by their own petard.
Okay, so would you say that they're winning the battle, though? Because according to a Rasmussen poll, Trump's numbers appear to be going up. In fact, he's second to Bush and Perry have both denounced what Trump says.
And Gabby, we were talking about Rasmussen numbers too. They seem to be falling in line with what Trump is saying.
Right. Well, I think it's unfair to generalize the Republican Party as being openly hostile towards Latinos and to immigrants. We've seen more Republican candidates come out and bemoan Donald Trump's remarks on illegal immigrants than have supported him. So, David, you're wrong in that remark. But at the same time, you do have, I think Donald Trump's seeing a soar in his numbers and in the polling because he sparked a national conversation about a very important and pressing topic, and that is immigration and how to deal with it in the coming election. So
overall,
I think he's enjoying this, and rightfully so.
So overall, Gabby, what's your prediction? Do you think this is going to continue to help Trump or hurt him?
I think he'll continue to go up in the polls so long as he doesn't continue to make provocative remarks like this.
David, in a word, we only have a few seconds
For
remaining.
now, he's safe.
David, in a word?
I think playing to the far right wing of the party is going to help him get a nomination and help him lose a general election if he's the nominee.
All right.
I think he is going to continue to be provocative. That's just the way
yeah,
he is,
I don't
right?
think he's going to steer away
Thanks
from
a lot,
that.
guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. You're watching Newsmax Now.